For those people out there that are nervous to buy their first rental property or they want to get into it, I think this comment, I mean, I would say represents their sentiment pretty well.
Okay.
One of the top comments on the Ryan Pineda podcast that you did was this: adjusted for inflation, the first house at $100,000 in 2001 is $172,000 in 2023 dollars, which now is even more.
Sure.
Good luck finding a good rental property now in California, let alone Silicon Valley, for under 200,000, even under 400,000. It is not possible, I would say. And also, I know Graham can attest to this, but like wage growth has not been the same as the increase in cost for getting into real estate.
Absolutely correct. So first off, we've never been able to cash flow in Silicon Valley in 25 years. Point to that question. Second, cash flow is hard. It has been very difficult. That's why I talk about live where you want and invest where the numbers make sense. They don't make sense in the Bay Area. They don't make sense in high expense areas. There are areas, even in LA, right? If you're in LA and you draw a map and you go towards the Inland Empire or maybe out to the high desert, there are opportunities where you can create cash flow. Maybe it's not as much as it was in 2001 or two, but there is opportunities to do that. It's always hard. It's always hard. And let's talk to that 172 number. Today, I think if you looked up Norris Drive, I think it's at 313 or something. The other thing I would tell people, because I have this saying, inflation's a feature, not a bug. What does that mean? I've gone back to 1970. And if you go back to 1970 and look at in real versus nominal home prices are up ungodly. But if you adjust for inflation, it's about 1% a year, right? If you take it over a long enough horizon. So real estate goes up slower than most people expect. And what does that mean for going forward? I think we've seen for the 2020s, I think we've seen all the appreciation. I think we're flat, rough and tough, at median home price for the nearly the rest of the decade.
I just know when I think about my own circumstance in this situation, I closed on my first and only property that I have at the place I'm living right now that I'm house hacking, which is nice. It was back in late 2021. I got just under a 3% interest rate and I purchased right around $600,000.
Nice.
My mortgage is like just shy of, or my PITI is just shy of like 2,300. But now if I were to buy that exact same property at the same price, but with today's interest rates, it'd be like 80% more.
Could be 100% with the decrease in taxes and whatnot. Yeah.
And talking with that considered, prices have gone up as well. So like maybe that property is like 700,000 or something like that. So it's well over 2x. And that's just in a matter of 3 years, not even.
Yeah.
Which I think like a lot of people, they see that and they're experiencing that, or they have analysis paralysis over the past couple of years. And now they're just like, oh my God, like as time continues going on, it's just getting so like unmanageable. It's not possible. And Graham talks about how renting right now is a lot more affordable than buying for
no question.
Vast majority of people.
Yeah. I mean, if you do the rent versus own calculation, I believe I saw this correctly. It's the worst skew that it's been certainly in the last couple of decades, the rent versus ownership.
40 years. I think it's 40 or 50 years.
Several decades. Yeah.
Where do you think prices are going to be headed over the next, let's call it 5 and 10 years?
So the next 5 and 10 years. So just so we're on the same page, we're going to talk median home price national. We're not going to talk Texas so median price national, S&P Case-Shiller if you'd like. I believe through the rest of the decade, home appreciation will be sub-inflation. So in real terms, home appreciation will be negative. It likely will still be nominal, but we're talking single digits, right? I think inflation will run most of the decade 2.5%. So nominally speaking, it will be positive. Real terms, it will be lower. Why is that? Because you can go back to the 1970s and see that home prices has generally been 1% above inflation. And in the first 4 years, we are way up. So I think there's some give back. So I think nationally speaking, home prices are going to be basically flat. And I think that'll drive a lot of people crazy.
And what about rents? You think rents are going to keep up with inflation plus some?
I think single families will likely be slightly above inflation because there's not a lot of them. And I think multifamily will be slightly less. So it'll be negative in real terms.
And what about the difficulties of today's market? Just competition is through the roof. Properties are the most unaffordable they've been in 40 years.
Yeah.
How do people combat that?
Well, I think the answer that you didn't say was supply. A lot of all of that roils around supply. And unfortunately, I still think we have a bifurcated housing market. I'll give you some stats that one of my fans sent me about Lynchburg. In Lynchburg, the median home price is roughly $275,000 today. In today's market, as of Tuesday, 1/3 of the active listings are below $275,000, which means 2/3 of them are above 275. Also, we're seeing increased price reductions, but those price reductions are on properties above the median. So what I think is going to transpire over the next year or so is transactions are going to disappoint. We're going to have more price reductions, but it's going to drive people crazy because the median home price will be yanked higher. This is how median's calculated, right? We're going to have more transactions above the median, which is going to pull the price higher. So I think the median home price is going to be positive. I think transactions is the thing most people missed. And I don't think we get back to 5 million transactions until 2026, 2027, maybe 2028. It's going to be that. The housing market is fundamentally broken. The Fed broke it. They took rates too low for too long. They started buying mortgage-backed securities for too long. The move-up buyer is dead. And that entry-level home it's just not coming on the market enough. So,
but it's still worth it for people to buy today. But if they buy the multifamily, the fourplex, and house hack it.
Yeah, so I think the easy thing to do is to house hack a fourplex. You can make those numbers work. Because again, if you're going to house hack a fourplex, you technically don't even need it to be profitable. You just need it to be less than your rent would be. Because what you're trying to do is lower your monthly expenses. I would argue a fourplex, you really should aim for 0. So you're living for free, which means you can stack another $2,000 a month to buy assets going forward. I would argue, and I'm seeing people all the time buy cash flow rentals, but it's usually in central or the southeast. It's tough in California. It's tough in Texas, but it's not impossible. I think a lot of people just believe you can't because that's the kind of era we live in. I just think it's hard. I've been doing 20 years. It's never been easy. Today's uniquely hard, true, but it's not impossible. I do think it gets easier from here, but we'll see.